Good afternoon. I'm Henry Fogel, a charter board member of Cedille Chicago. I want to thank you for coming to this wonderful and special event. I want to express gratitude to the student quartet who performed during the reception. Members, absolutely. They are members of the Northwestern Dover Quartet program. I also would like to acknowledge the real leader of our board, the chair of our board, and somebody who's been a wonderful resource to Cedille, Ed Malone. Ed, where are you exactly? One addendum to your program that I want to speak about very briefly. It's rumored that I have a very large collection of recordings. My wife's laughing with a kind of mixed feeling about it. It's also rumored that Justice Ginsburg is a lover of opera. And last year, I created a special compact disc that she curated featuring some of her favorite operatic performances. We made a volume 2. And there is a little card in your program. It also will be, you can order it at the auction table later. I'm not going to go through all the contents, but some of the singers, Giuseppe Di Stefano, Richard Tucker, Zinka Milanov, Maria Callas, Cesare Siepi, Jussi Björling, music from Faust, Aida, I Puritani, Don Giovanni, and Eugene Onegin. It's everything on it lists among or counts among her favorite singers and music. And we put it together collaboratively, and I think it will be a wonderful treasure for you. So there is a card in your program, or there will be cards by the silent auction, and right after the soiree, the CD will be mailed to you. I want to tell you, I've now been, it's frightening to think about, but something like 54 years in the music business, in one way or another, the classical music world. Chicago has been my home for 32 years, and we're here to celebrate not just classical music in Chicago, but a unique organization, the likes of which I don't know of anywhere else, and that is Cedille. Cedille Records provides an unbelievable service to Chicago musicians and composers. The mission of the company is, and I was talking with some people in the reception about this, yes, we make records, we make recordings, but the mission actually is not principally to sell as many recordings as we can. Clearly, we'd like to. But the real mission is to help Chicago artists, both composers and performers, develop their careers, to provide them with worldwide exposure through the recordings that we make. That is guaranteed to be not a great business plan. And that is why we are a nonprofit. That is why we have galas like this and do fundraising. But it's a wonderful mission. And there are artists who have developed international careers with a large assist from Cedille. I'd like to introduce to you now the man who really thought of this idea, created it, and keeps carrying it out, Jim Ginsburg.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Henry. I was going to say a few things about our mission, but I think Henry has pretty much covered it. I will just say that Cedille's mission has been its mission, its purpose, to record and promote these wonderful world-class classical musicians from Chicago since day one, and day one is now 28 years ago that we've been doing this, and I think Henry's right. We are unique. There really is no organization that promotes classical musicians the way we do. It's great to see so many friends here, so many long-term Cedille supporters who appreciate our mission and what we do for these artists. I know many of you recognize from previous Cedille soirees, so thank you so much for coming back. I want to offer a special welcome to those who are here for their first Cedille soiree. I hope you have a marvelous time and want to officially welcome you to the Cedille family. I'm particularly gratified that there are so many Cedille artists in the room here that have come to support us. I think that's a real testament to the efficacy of our mission that artists want to come and support our work at an event like this. And artists ranging here tonight from the beginning of the label. We have two of our charter artists, pianist composer Easley Blackwood is with us, and harpsichordist organist David Schrader is here, both of whom made their first Cedille recordings over a quarter century ago. And these artists range all the way up to the latest ensemble to release on Cedille, the McGill-McHale Trio, who we'll be hearing from later in tonight's concert. Now, speaking of the trio, we're now going to unveil a brand new video that illustrates Cedille's mission and happens to feature that trio. It goes behind the scenes at a Cedille recording session to show what we do, and the session that we go behind is in fact the sessions for the McGill-McHale Trio's album that was released just last month, Portraits Works for Flute, Clarinet, and Piano. So I hope you find this enjoyable and enlightening. I started the label in 1989. At the time, I was entering law school at the University of Chicago. I realized there were all these wonderful Chicago artists who I used to hear in my days as an undergraduate in concerts and live broadcasts from the WFMT studios. But when I went to look for their recordings, there were none to be found. Chicago actually had no classical recording company to showcase these artists, so I made that from day one the focus of Cedille Records. We're recording an album of music for flute, clarinet, and piano with the McGill-McHale Trio.
Chicago is one of the major cultural destinations of the world, so this is great. I mean, it really is, for us, a big deal to be doing this in our hometown.
Recording opportunities help artists in a lot of ways. Artists often say to me that these become really their calling cards, and having a reputable label putting out really high-quality productions for these artists, they get themselves noticed.
We will gladly pass on this CD, and that will greatly increase our chances of being hired.
When you do a concert, you maybe get one review, you get one audience, and then that's it over. Whereas when you've made this, it can kind of go on and generate its own momentum for years afterwards at times, and particularly with radio airplay, you can just reach a much wider audience, and that's one of the greatest things about it, I think, for us.
Our goal is to serve the artist rather than the artist serving the label. Our promotion, as much as possible, really centers on the artists, because we're not just promoting a recording, we're really promoting the artists on the recording. One thing that makes Cedille special really is that we're not pitching repertoire. The artists really come to us with their ideas. They say, here's the music I'm passionate about recording. Because when artists play music they care most about, you get the best performances.
The process of deciding the repertoire and working with Cedille, the label on this, was really exciting because we got to come up with all our own ideas, but then also there was that really interesting collaboration and input, and Jim was always we were bouncing our ideas off him, and it was a really organic process, I think.
To have a label that's open to using new composers and having new music and having exciting new music and really wonderful music that will become a part of the standard repertoire for this ensemble is something that is really amazing.
I think the result will be a brilliant, varied, exciting CD. Yeah, we're grateful to the label for being open to that.
I guess what I'm proudest about for Cedille is the feedback I get from the artists and composers and ensembles we work with, how valuable they say what we do is to them, to their careers, and also to their desire to document their finest work. I take it you enjoyed that. Wonderful. So I believe now we are beginning the musical portion of the evening tonight, and we're beginning it with one of the world's great pianists, Jorge Federico Osorio. Jorge came to Chicago about 20 years ago now, and he's released 7 albums on Cedille since 2004. The projects that artists come to Cedille with that they want to document and record tend to fall into 2 camps. Unusual, underrepresented repertoire and new works that they want to bring out and add to the record catalog is probably the larger. But there are also artists, especially artists of this caliber, who really want to document their special, distinctive interpretations of core classical works. And Jorge's recordings really fall into the best of both worlds. He's, of course, known so well for his explorations of Spanish and Mexican piano music, both in concert and on recordings. For us, he's recorded, among other things, the spectacular piano concerto of Mexican composer Carlos Chavez, as well as albums of Mexican piano music. But there are other times when he really says, you know, I really want to document my interpretation of this important work. And so we've recorded masterworks of Debussy, Liszt, Mussorgsky, and most recently Schubert and Brahms with him. When talking about Jorge, I always like to bring in a quote from the Los Angeles Times that I think captures his artistry so well. The Times called him one of the more elegant and accomplished pianists on the planet. And I think that that elegance is just the right word. There's an unforced beauty to Jorge's playing, and even the most difficult, most technically brilliant passages, he finds the most elegant way of phrasing them. And I think that elegance is particularly going to be in evidence in what we're going to hear. His newest album is called Final Thoughts, the last piano works of Schubert and Brahms, and includes the last 4 sets of Brahms piano pieces, opus 116 through 119. And for tonight, he's put together a wonderful suite of pieces, one from each opus. And I think you'll really hear that elegant phrasing and approach in this music. So I'd like to call to the stage now to perform this pianist Jorge Federico Osorio.
I'm supposed to say something after that? You know, there are just not that many pianists in the world that give you in equal measure poetry and strength. He's really extraordinary. Cedille Records extraordinary musicians, and the quality of the recordings itself is extraordinary, and they're recognized. If you read international record magazines, Gramophone in England, the reviews for Cedille recordings speak always of the quality of the music making and the quality of the engineering and the production. Sometimes I think we in Chicago have a tendency to think, well, yeah, that's really good from the prism of Chicago. No, it's good from the prism of the world. And the reputation has actually earned Cedille the support of people from well beyond Chicago. And tonight, we are going to bestow the 4th annual Martin D. Ginsburg Award, an award named for Martin Ginsburg. Marty was Cedille's first board chair, its most ardent supporter, a man I had the pleasure of serving with on the board for several years, a man whose unflagging commitment to Cedille and the musicians it records really inspired every one of us associated with that company in its beginnings. Marty's support of Cedille recruited into the Cedille family many people who didn't have a Chicago connection, but who appreciate good music, the musicians who create it, and what the company does. We're going to honor 2 people tonight whose long enthusiasm for and support of Cedille is exemplary. And we are joined now by a woman who will tell us a little bit about the man for whom this award is named, and a woman that, while I have the pleasure of introducing her, she doesn't actually need an introduction. She's the 2nd woman appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States. She's a celebrated advocate for gender and marriage equality and human rights. She's a personal hero to me and probably everyone else in this room. And she's Jim's mom. It's my honor to introduce Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Thank you so much. Thank you, please. Please be seated. Henry, I do have one word for what we just heard. It was magnificent. And I can tell you, because you're all friends of Cedille, how proud I am of my son for founding this organization. It's hard to believe, James, that it's 28 years. Well, it's a special joy for me to present the Martin D. Ginsburg Award to Beverly and Bill Rossoff. I have known the Rossoffs as the world's best traveling companions. Marty and Bill were in the same line of business, both masters of the intricacies of the Internal Revenue Code. Both were members of the CCH and later Little Brown Tax Advisory Board. Board members received no compensation, no monetary compensation for their service. Instead, as Marty arranged, the board assembled twice a year, expenses paid, in the world's best garden spots, midwinter in the United States, summer abroad. Beverly was Billy's dream girl in high school and has remained his great love through 47 years of marriage. Some years ago, they built their dream house in Umbria, near the town of Cedille. Together, they learned Italian, both the language and the cuisine. Marty and I visited them in their spacious, comfortable, sun-filled Umbrian home twice, the second time in what turned out to be the last summer of Marty's life. It was a stay to remember when my spirits need lifting. While Billy was on his way to becoming prominent in the tax bar, Beverly earned a master's in education from the University of Pennsylvania. She spent satisfying years teaching in the Philadelphia area high school. Both of them attended in their teen years. Beverly and Bill believe ardently in public service, in sharing their good fortune by supporting worthy causes, medical centers, business and law faculties. Like Marty, Bill was an unpaid advisor to the Treasury Department, and both of them have engaged in valiant efforts to rescue and protect animals. Like Marty and me, they had a favorite Philadelphia and later DC and New York artist, Elaine Kurtz. Elaine's paintings hang on their walls, mine too. They are treasures. At Marty's urging, the Rossoffs have contributed generously to Cedille Chicago from its earliest years. Marty, I am confident, would be as pleased as I am by the selection of Beverly and Bill Rossoff as recipients of an award bearing his name. If Beverly and Bill will come up, I would like to present them with the certificate, which reads, Beverly and William Rossoff, who have honored Marty's sustained vision through their extraordinary commitment to Cedille Chicago, NFP, and the music it produces, which gave Marty boundless joy. Thank you.
I'll just take a second to say it's been our privilege and pleasure to be able to be of any help we have been able to such a wonderful organization and all the wonderful things that Jim is fostering. And it's a triple pleasure to have the award presented by Justice Ginsburg and in the name of Marty, who, aside from being a great tax lawyer, made everybody I know, and certainly Beverly and me, lift our spirits and everybody's spirits every occasion we had anything to do with them. Thank you.
That's heavy. Hopefully don't need that. So next on the musical program, we have the newest ensemble to record for Cedille Records, the McGill McHale Trio, consists of Anthony McGill clarinet, Damari McGill flute, and Michael McHale piano. Born and raised on Chicago's South Side, brothers Damari and Anthony McGill have risen to become world-class performers on their instruments. Now, besides their own innate talent and amazing work ethic, I think their success in this regard is attributable to two things in particular. One, their amazing upbringing, courtesy of their parents, Ira Carroll and Damari McGill Sr., who are with us here tonight, and I want to give them a warm personal welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And the other, I think, is the wonderful classical music education institutions in Chicago, in particular the Merit School of Music and the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestras, both of which are represented here tonight as well. Now, when I say they are world-class performers, Damari McGill is currently principal flute of the Seattle Symphony. He's also held that position in, among other ensembles, the Dallas Symphony Orchestra and the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. Anthony McGill is principal clarinet of the New York Philharmonic, and I think probably everybody here remembers very fondly his performance at the 2009 inauguration of Barack Obama alongside Itzhak Perlman, Yo-Yo Ma, and Gabriela Montero. And I'm very proud to say that Anthony's first professionally produced and released recording was in fact on Cedille Records. In 2014, we released the Mozart and Brahms clarinet quintets with Anthony and the Pacifica Quartet to universally ecstatic reviews. And it was after that project that we discussed the possibility of doing a new project with both Anthony and Damari. And that idea really came to fruition, came together when they found the perfect musical collaborator in pianist Michael McHale and formed, of course, the McHale Trio. And the result is, as Damari said in the film we just saw, a brilliantly varied album of mostly new works for this unusual combination of instruments, as well as some really beautiful arrangements. In fact, in the early reviews of the album, Michael McHale's arrangement for them of the Rachmaninoff vocalese has been singled out for praise. Where tonight on the program here, we're going to hear the title work on the album. The album, as you saw, was titled Portraits, Works for Flute, Clarinet, and Piano, and it's named for Valerie Coleman's Portraits of Langston. Valerie Coleman is an extremely talented composer, also known to Chicago audiences as the flutist of the Amani Winds, which is the ensemble in residence now at the University of Chicago. Her concept for Portraits of Langston is reflections on 6 different Langston Hughes poems, and in concert, in performance, and on a recording, in each case, each piece is preceded by the poem it's reflecting on. And tonight, I am just thrilled beyond measure to say that acting as the voice of Langston Hughes for us will be one of the opera world's true superstars. Bass baritone Eric Owens will be doing that, and I just want to say I'm just so grateful that he's lending his time and talent to the proceedings this evening. So let's hear Valerie Coleman's Portraits of Langston with the McHale Trio and Eric Owens.
In the dark, found light brighter than many ever see. She within herself found loveliness through the soul's own mastery. And now the world receives from her dower the message of the strength of inner power. The low beating of the tom-toms, the slow beating of the tom-toms, low, slow, slow, low, stirs your blood. Dance! A night-veiled girl whirls softly into a circle of light, whirls softly and slowly like a wisp of smoke around the fire, and the tom-toms beat, and the tom-toms beat, and the low beating of the tom-toms stirs your blood. One night, there was this terrific fight at the Grand Duke. It began like this. A little French danseuse named Annette was going to have a child. Feeling badly, no doubt, Annette began to be very spiteful to those clients who didn't think that they could afford another bottle of champagne. So one night, the owner of the place asked her not to come back anymore. He called an attendant to eject her, and Annette would not go. The attendant laid hands on her and pushed her, struggling in her satin evening gown toward the door. As she passed the last table, Annette seized the patron's champagne bucket ice, bottle and all, and flung it straight at the proprietor at his cash desk behind the bar, whereupon the attendant slapped Annette to the floor with one blow of his hand. Then it was that Florence, that famous entertainer, that same Florence who snubbed millionaires nightly, arose from her table near the orchestra to fend the poor little French danseuse in her trouble. Florence wore an evening gown of gold and a spray of orchids in her hair. She swept across the floor like a handsome tigress, blocking the path of the waiters who, at the bidding of the management, rushed to eject the little danseuse. Florence said, "Don't touch that woman. She's a woman, and I'm a woman, and can't nobody hit a woman in any place where I work. Don't you put your hands on that woman." By that time, the little danseuse had risen from the floor and seized another ice bucket, which she sent whirling into space. Customers dodged behind tables. The orchestra struck up "Tuck Me to Sleep" in my old Kentucky home to drown out the noise. A waiter did lay hands on the danseuse, but Florence laid hands on the waiter. Then the Negro manager laid hands on Florence, and a battle royale began between the women and those who sided with the women, and the management and those who sided with the men. In the time of silver rain, the earth put forth new life again. Green grasses grow and flowers lift their heads, and over all the plain the wonder spreads of life, of life, of life. In the time of silver rain, the butterflies lift silken wings to catch a rainbow cry, and trees put forth new leaves to sing in joy beneath the sky, as down the road passing boys and girls go singing too. In the time of silver rain, when spring and life are new. Play that thing, jazz band. Play it for the lords and the ladies, for the dukes and counts, for the whores and gigolos, for the American millionaires and the school teachers out for a spree. Play it, jazz band. You know that tune that laughs and cries at the same time. You know it. May I? Maybe. Mein Gott. Parece una rumba. Play it, jazz band. You've got 7 languages to speak in and then some. Even if you do come from Georgia. Can I go home with you, sweetie? sounds of the Harlem night drop one by one into stillness. The last player piano is closed. The last Victrola ceases with the jazz boy blues. The last crying baby sleeps. And the night becomes still as a whispering heartbeat. I toss without rest in the darkness, weary as the tired night. My soul, empty as the silence, empty with a vague, aching emptiness, desiring, needing someone, something. I toss without rest in the darkness until the new dawn, wan and pale, descends like a white mist into the courtyard.
What an extraordinary set of performances tonight. Thank you all for joining us. For those of you who are sadly leaving us now, we will have some CDs in the lobby as you depart. For the rest of you, we will have it at the end of the evening, a CD featuring Cedille recordings of works that you heard tonight, plus bonus tracks from both Jorge Federico Osorio and Anthony McGill. For those of you leaving us now, we say good night. We will have those CDs in the lobby as you depart. Those of you remaining with us for dinner, I invite you to proceed to the 9th floor where the festivities will continue. Again, thank you for being here.
First of all, I just want to reiterate my appreciation to Bill and Beverly Rossoff for coming all the way to Chicago to accept the Martin D. Ginsburg Award. They've been such great supporters of Cedille for so long, and I just could not be more grateful for your support and also your very kind remarks about, especially about my father as well as me. So thank you so much for that. And I am delighted to confer a second award tonight. I think if there's a message that underlies much of what has been said tonight, it's that there's such a great spirit of collaboration among Chicago's classical music community. And we celebrate this with our Musical Partnership Award each year. We give the award to an organization that demonstrates an extraordinary commitment to that community. And through their support of Chicago's musicians, Cedille's musical partners really complement our mission of promoting the work of Chicago's finest classical artists. And tonight, we recognize an outstanding organization that provides a first-class musical education to Chicago area students regardless of financial need, which is really, really important. The Merit School of Music was founded in 1979 in response to the elimination of music programs in the Chicago public schools. So for 38 years, people like Duffy Adelson, who was Merit's president for 33 years and is here tonight, yes. People like Duffy have made Merit the locus of growth and development for thousands of young musicians. Now, not all of these musicians turn into DeMare or Anthony McGill, but all have had their lives greatly enriched by Merit's program. And Merit's dedication to enhancing the lives of area youth strengthens really the whole music community in Chicago and makes all of our lives richer. So it is with great pleasure that I would like to invite the current president of Merit, Charles Grody, to accept this award on behalf of our longtime friends at the Merit School of Music.
Thank you, Jim, for your words on behalf of Cedille. Thank you for your wonderful words about Merit, and thank you for this beautiful award, which I accept with gratitude on behalf of everyone affiliated with Merit School of Music. It is a partnership award. There are so many partnerships in this room, and I've had the benefit, the pleasure, the honor of working with so many of you over many years, in the last 2 years at Merit and for many years before that elsewhere. It is a pleasure to see all of your faces here. You support so many organizations, so much music, and so much collaboration across the city. So thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for all of your support. I guess I just want to say lastly about partnership, right? This begins with collaboration and teamwork within your organization. In order to be able to do good work with other organizations, you have to have good teams and good partners within and at home. And Merit is really fortunate in the great leadership we've had over many years on the staff side, on the board side. I know there are faculty members here this evening. Some of our artists in residence are here this evening. So I really accept this award on behalf of all of those individuals, our alums, their parents, because for anyone to succeed in anything in life, right, we need the support, the care, and really the help of others. And this award reflects that. and I accept it with gratitude on behalf of Merit School of Music. So thank you.